Take back your soul. This is another transmission from Mahadeva here at ThunderWizard.com headquarters, where you find the world's only unified spiritual energy system at ThunderWizard.com. Get ready, because here I come. Hello YouTube, this is Mahadeva the Thunder Wizard. Today, if I'm able to guide my thoughts correctly, we will talk about extra-dimensional beings versus extraterrestrial. What are elves and dwarves? We'll see if we can bring into clearer focus the different kinds of realities that we have available to us. But as you just saw in that brief little video intro that I have, I'd like for you to focus on the idea that you are God. And whatever you might think of God, creating the universe, and that infinity has been quantum enfolded into your soul. And so it is true that you are complete, infinite, omnipotent, timeless, formless God, and so is everybody else. And so unlike how we have been programmed in this particular age of human existence, we have been programmed to think in dualistic terms. We have been programmed to think in terms of dominance and control, strong versus weak. And this is something that we have chosen to accept, to believe. So I would like for you to think in a traditional fashion. So shamanism is a term, a generalized term that I use about myself. You know, if somebody asks, what is your spiritual practice? I will say, I am a shaman, but that doesn't mean that I follow any particular kind of spiritual practice. Like, that doesn't mean that I have to walk around with a frame drum and a stick and beat on a frame drum. That doesn't make anybody a shaman. That's just one tool. But shamanism is a term that was invented in the 1700s to really talk about what is just simply traditional spiritual understanding of the cosmos, which is that everything in the cosmos has consciousness. Everything in the cosmos vibrates at a certain level and has a sound or a tone associated with it. And it has a frequency. And so a shaman is nothing more than a human being who communicates, interacts with the quantum field in whatever way it has manifested. And so a shaman communicates to rocks, trees, planets, stars, beings, spirits, ocean, clouds. This is a shaman. A shaman is somebody who interacts with the quantum field. And to understand that we live in a holographic projection, and it is an illusion that we are separate from each other, that we are separate from the rest of everything that has been, quote, created, unquote. We have all of that inside of us. Whenever you look up into the sky, and I recommend that you do this when you can, go outside and look up in the sky, especially at night because it feels bigger, because you're seeing this black expanse with a lot of stars. And when you look at the stars, remind yourself that you are not looking outside of yourself, you're looking inside of yourself. And so when we think about things like that, now what I'd like for you to do is I'd like for you to come up with your idea of a perfect world. The world that we live in now is, of course, on this planet Earth, is populated by humans. And we humans have stayed stuck. We are, like when you go to school and you skip a grade or you're sent back a grade, that's what we've done. We have chosen to go back in our evolution. We're stuck in old ways of thinking. But we can choose to change the way that the world functions. To give you an example, in times past, every culture, my ethnic background, tribal, pre-Christian, Norse, those people believed that they lived in a world where there were all different kinds of beings. They believed that there were elves and dwarves and trolls, gods, two kinds of gods. There were celestial gods, there were terrestrial gods, there were giants. There were all these different kinds of beings in their world. They understood that those worlds intermixed and were on top of each other, and they used the example of the tree of life, and that the tree of life had 9 branches. That's how they saw it. A central stem, there was 9 branches that came out of it, and each one of those branches had its own dimension, and that dimension was filled with certain beings, and those beings could interact in our dimension. Maybe we physically saw them, maybe we didn't. Maybe we saw them, they phased in and out. Maybe they looked like spirits. They could manifest in all kinds of different ways. And this was their reality. So it wasn't uncommon for you to be walking around and one person might see something, but you don't see it. You would understand that you weren't vibrating on that level. These were shamanic people. They saw the world as a vibration. They saw the world as a projection, and your particular vibration and projection gave you the ability to perhaps see things that other people couldn't see, experience things other people couldn't experience. So it wasn't unusual for there to be different levels of experience. We've been taught for the past 2,000 years that it's a reductionist view where we reduce everything to its common denominator and we say this is all that exists. And then because your perception controls what you perceive, your intent, your ideas, your assumptions controls what you perceive, then that is the world that you have. And so in the world that we live in now, it's very dull and boring, and there's not a whole lot that goes on. And anybody who has an experience outside of that, they see spirits or they have an experience, we say that they have some kind of mental illness or they're, we can't believe them. We don't trust them. So what kind of a world would you like to live in? Would you like to live in a world where there are Dr. Manhattans? Would you like to live in a world where you can shift in and out of different dimensions? Would you like to live in a world of magic, of things that are just absolutely scientifically impossible? All of the things associated with that. Bear in mind, everybody else gets to partake in that. So one of the things that has become popular nowadays is, like movies like X-Men or, things like that, where special people have special powers over other people. That's still kind of reductionist viewpoint where, yeah, we'll accept this idea of powers, but only if I get to have them and you don't. No, what about a world where everybody has access to all of this different kinds of reality? I'm here to tell you that that reality is waiting for us. Those beings that live in these different dimensions that are waiting to interact with you, they're waiting for us. We have to choose to shift our reality. We have to choose to operate from that state, number one, of fearlessness, and understanding that we live in a universe that operates from love. And so that's going to be the most challenging thing, is to get to the place where we operate from a place of fearlessness and love, where we see ourselves in everything and everybody. When we can get to that stage, then the quantum field will be available to us. Everything in the quantum field. That means every other being that exists in the cosmos, every other world, every other planet, every other dimension will be available to you to interact with and enjoy, in the same way that Odin, this is what Odin achieved. When Odin sacrificed himself to himself on the world tree, the runes, the mysteries that inhabit the web of weird, that quantum web, became available to him, and he saw them. Screaming, he took them up, meaning that he sought desperately to experience those secrets. And as a result, like Dr. Manhattan here, he has the ability to go into all of the worlds and all of the dimensions. And so he is the guide for us. The Vedic pantheon, it would be Shiva. Shiva is the one that represents the same vibration as Odin. So the more that I keep thinking about this, the more that I keep doing my research, and of course doing my own personal work, working with the Maoshan spirit fighting, I'm working with this continuously, working with the 90-day spiritual practices that I've shared with you. The more that I keep doing this work, I'm starting to open up and expand, taking this understanding that we've had about our globe, our Earth, and expanding it to an entire universe. And I'm coming to the conclusion more and more that what my ancestors called the Elves, which translates as the Shining Ones, may very well have been extra-dimensional beings. The scientists would call those extraterrestrial beings, because they reduce it down to just a physical, we're here and they're out there. But what if the more advanced civilizations are civilizations of paranormal consciousness? What has kept us in the dark has been our refusal as a species to accept the paranormal as a scientific reality. When monotheist Abrahamic religion came on the scene, Christianity, Judaism, Islam, they brought with it that one God philosophy, which is filled with hate, filled with shame, filled with judgment, but it also says nothing else exists. It started out with, in the Ten Commandments, where Jehovah says, "Thou shalt have no other gods before me," which is really what that message is do not think of anything other than what you can physically see and touch, and worship that only. Worship separation, worship isolation. which breeds fear. Isolation breeds fear. Fear breeds violence. That's why we are still trapped in violence. And why our fear of extraterrestrials. Again, we just had a hearing with Congress and the Pentagon. Representatives for our military was saying, yes, these beings exist, but they are a threat to our security. They didn't come and say, yes, these beings exist. How amazing. We can drop all of our weapons now. We don't have to fight. We can interact with beings of higher consciousness and higher technology, and we can become part of the universe. That wasn't their first response. And we have been taught for the past 70 years to believe that extraterrestrials, look at it. If you look at, every single science fiction movie that has extraterrestrials in it, 98% of them is a horror. Alien. I remember seeing Alien when I was 15. I was 15 in 1979, and I remember seeing Alien, and I remember being so afraid that I was afraid to open the door to the restroom in the movie theater because I was afraid of what was on the other side of the door. And then later, in the 90s, it morphed into Whitley Strieber's Communion. If you're familiar with that book and that movie, where they make this pseudo spiritual being who has to take you by force and your children by force, abduct them, take them into crafts, and do all kinds of sexual and weird things to you against your will. This is our reductionist, monotheist mindset. Even people who are atheist don't realize that they are operating from the thou shalt have no other gods but me. Only believe what you can see and touch in the lowest, most dense vibration of this, our dimension, which we call planet Earth. So I am of the opinion that elves, which translates as the shining ones, I believe those to be extra-dimensional beings. They could very well be human. I like to think of the very real possibility. I'm starting to have this conviction that the Earth is not the only place where souls incarnate. There are many other planets out there where souls can incarnate. Maybe there are some planets that vibrate on a dimension that, those souls who have learned everything that they can from Earth then go to those other higher dimensions. But I also think those beings that have been in other higher dimensions can come here. They might want to, take a 3D virtual reality trip to, Earth. That's a pretty intense one. Let's go check that one out this time around. And it still connects with my feeling that the elves are ascended masters. Souls that have incarnated so many times that they no longer need a dense physical experience. But they're still closely associated with incarnated beings, and they act as guides. Guides that you have to ask. They won't force themselves on you. You must ask for their presence. You must ask for their guidance. I believe these may include extraterrestrial, extra-dimensional beings. Because even here on Earth, all of the mythology that we have surrounding spiritual masters always ends up in the same way, where the human spiritual master, through their powers of meditation, get to a place where they move beyond their physical body. Even in the Abrahamic version, you have Enoch, who was translated and went up to be with God. The same kind of idea. And in our physical, human world, that is the exception to the rule. So much so that it has become a mythology. But what if that is the norm in other higher civilizations? What if the norm for consciousness is to live in this multiphasic, multidimensional universe? And imagine this world. Imagine the world that we live in now. Imagine the scientists and the engineers. Imagine if their base assumption for physics is consciousness. And instead of trying to look at things, as bits and pieces that we have to put together, we create technology that is by its own nature spiritual. The paranormal becomes science. Imagine that world where instead of going and having to stick your key in a lock to open your door, or using your thumbprint or something like that, or using a scan of your eye, you walk up and your house, which you've created with your living force, recognizes you and just opens the door. That kind of technology where I could go off on other subjects, but that's really what I want to focus on. I want to show you something. I honestly don't know if this is real or not. And if any of you know what this is, it's I'm not the first person to show this. It's all over the place. But I would like to know if you think this is fake or not. Because if it's not fake, then it's depending on how you look at it could be frightening or it could be amazing. But let's take a look at this here. That's the moon. And you go in, you can see that it's... What the heck is that little dot up there at the top? What the heck is that? Oh, there's two of them. And you see one of them goes behind the moon. Do you have any idea how big those ships have to be? Assuming that's real. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think that was real? And then the question is it human invented or is it extraterrestrial? If it's humans, then that is a big deal because we are not being told that we have this fleet of Star Wars level, giant ships that are orbiting the moon. And that's something we need to know about. If it's not human, then that means that there are extraterrestrial space explorers out there with enormous ships on our moon. Either way you look at it, our reality is now starting to crumble. Anyway, I could go off on all that kind of stuff, but what I really want to focus on is, can we have the mindset like the elves? Beings that are multidimensional. Beings that can live and manifest in 3D or can phase in and out of our reality. Imagine a world where we could do that. We can have that if we all are willing to drop the fear, to drop the violence, and learn to understand the idea that each one of us is the entire universe folded up into a human body. Every time you see another person walking around, that person has the infinity of the universe quantum folded inside of them. They have the ability to be a Dr. Manhattan if they are willing to shift the way that they view themselves, to work through the their emotional awareness, We have this ability. And I would like to find ways to continue, and I'm still doing it. I'm about to upload a meditation which will allow you to have that experience. I've been using it for decades now, and I think I'm ready to share it with you guys. And it's one of those meditations that the ancient Taoists believed that if they did it and perfected it, that they would translate from physical to extra dimensional. And they would, in the light of day, they would translate. You'd look at them, and then one moment they wouldn't be there anymore. I have one of these meditations I've been practicing off and on for 30 years, which I will share with you. So that will be upcoming in the Warrior 90-Day Challenge here at thunderwizard.com. So with that, I will simply open it up for questions. This is a question and answer. Let's see, who do we got here? We got Vincent. First, we got Thundra. Thundra says hello. You can go check out her website, thunderwizard.com. She is one of my astrologers, and she has a bunch of other services that she offers. She's a healer and a shaman in her own right. And then we have vincent.thunderwizard.com. You can go check out his website, vincent.thunderwizard.com, and you can see all the stuff here that he offers. Go check him out. Jedi Black Knight, feedback. Okay, I don't know. Let's see. Can't confirm if the moon video is real, but a close friend of mine is heavily into moon photography, and he did observe similar phenomena. So perhaps it's real. Yeah, let's look at it again. CGI has come a long way, but here's the thing to look for. I really like that they start off, it looks like somebody's phone. I don't know if they're just using the phone, the image of the cameras on the phone, or if it's hooked up to a telescope or whatever it is, but when he zooms in, what I really enjoy is you get to see him zoom all the way in, and you can tell that it's really far away because there's heat waves, that get in the way. And you can see the clouds, there's like very thin clouds coming in front. And those tiny little, they look tiny, but actually they would be enormous. Those ships orbiting the moon, those ships are, they haven't been placed on top of there. There isn't some kind of CGI that I can see. They're the heat waves from it being so far away, because we're looking through, heat to get there. The heat waves is having the exact same effect on our experience of those ships. So if it is faked, it's really, really good. But let's look at it again. And that's what I want you to look for. Notice that the little ships are, the heat waves from the distance is identical on them as it is on the moon. And the other thing is, watch how that one ship breaks off and you see it go around. You can see it going over the horizon of the moon to the other side. I don't know how somebody could fake that. Maybe it's possible, I don't know. They can do almost anything these days. Let's take a look. Look at that. That's crazy. And watch that one on the bottom. Look, it is going around. You can see it going over that moon's horizon around to the other side. That's crazy. It's huge. Those ships, I don't know, maybe, I don't know. I would love to get a scientist in there to be able to give us some perspective on how big those ships have to be. That's enormous. That's like Star Wars kind of, Battlestar, huge kinds of ships. That's mind-boggling. Anyway, let's see. Vincent.thunderwizard.com, honest feeling. It feels good to connect with my body. I feel masculine and empowered. I'm grateful that my life coaching business and YouTube channel is starting to take off. Working out feels great. I'm happy to hear that, Vincent. Good for you. All right, so we don't have a lot of people on here. You were expecting me to wax on for 2.5 hours. No, I don't have it in me tonight. But I thought I'd check in with you. And I'm going to start. I'm going to start doing some more research into connecting with other beings and other vibrations. So I'm gonna attempt to go more deeply into my meditation to experience this, but I'm not going to get into any details yet. But I really do want us, all of us, to accept the idea that we can change the consciousness of the world. And it is extremely important that we, on a daily basis, visualize and imagine the world that we want to live in. I want to live in a world that is magical. I want to live in a world where I can shift in and out of dimensions. I want to live in a world where I can interact with, see, and experience beings from other dimensions, from this earth and from other planets. I want to live in that world where the consciousness of the world has risen to a level where we are like the elves, where we, not because we're righteous or we're good, but just because it makes sense, we realize that violence, greed, isolation, separatism, it works against us. And when we do that, we will automatically have that incredible world. And we will have access to technologies beyond what we can imagine. Technologies where using our consciousness, fusing our spirituality, understanding that the basics of science, the basics of medicine comes from what we perceive to be spiritual and paranormal. That the understanding that we live in a quantum field that is itself consciousness. The universe, this manifested universe, is a quantum field, the web of weird, that responds directly to our conscious intention. We live in that world where we take that, and that becomes the basis of science. That becomes the basis of medicine. So one of the things that's important to understand is that there's always a false reality that's trying to evolve, and then there's a true reality that's trying to evolve. And the false reality mirrors the true one. So you've heard of transhumanism. We've been experiencing that for the past 2 years with the medical procedures that have been mandated on us. It's transhumanism. We're trying to, with base understanding of technology, turn ourselves into robots, living robots. But the word transhumanism is actually a good word. It means to go beyond human. But instead of going beyond human towards being like a robot, which is what transhumanism is experiencing, there's the spiritual, the true evolution of human beings, which is to go beyond the 4 dimensions, the 3 dimensions plus time, which is what we live in, what we call the 3D, to go beyond the 3D to the 5D. That is something that we are designed to do. That is our evolutionary goal. And I'm telling you, the universe will not tolerate us if we don't evolve. If we de-evolve into the more mundane, lower vibrational, elite transhumanism that the World Economic Forum wants to create. If we go that route, the universe will snuff us out. Not out of rage or out of anger, but we will stop being able to reproduce. We will become one of those evolutionary dead ends, because we won't be of service to the quantum field. If we, however, listen to evolution and move beyond that, where the basics of our science, the basics of our interactions with ourselves, our philosophy, our morality, the basics of technology, is a shamanic understanding of consciousness, then the universe will work with us and we will evolve to the next level of our being, which will be to allow this earth to rise up to the next vibrational essence, where we live in a world where we are multidimensional beings. So we have a choice ahead of us. If everybody listening to me, if we all do the work, and if we do the tools, it takes action. If we use the tools here that we have available, I'm not the only game in town. Somebody else's meditative channel, Tai Chi, yoga, whatever it is, shamanism, whatever it is that you use, if we all do that with the intention to evolve to the next level, we are at that crossroads where it will happen. There is an event coming. I'm not quite sure exactly what it is, but there is a major transitional evolutionary event coming. And whether or not the human race evolves to the next level, or whether or not it hits an evolutionary dead end, is going to depend on how many of us are able to tap into that quantum field with our intentions. So again, drop the fear, drop the self-pity, drop the victim mentality, drop the anger, drop the comparing yourself to other people, competing with other people. Embrace, number one, the awareness of your infinity and your godhood, while at the same time embracing your humility and seeing everybody else as your equal, regardless of their, what species of animal they are, regardless of whether or not they're a rock or a tree or a fish, or whether they're an extraterrestrial, or if they're a human being of a different ethnicity. Drop the separation. If we can do that and tap into that field of energy, we can avoid the evolutionary dead end, and we can move to that next level. So this is a very exciting time to be alive. Sabrina Smith. All right, so that's not a question. I'm looking for questions. I'm looking for honest feelings. Those are the things that I really want to see. She's sharing an experience. I've seen a portal open in my home. I've seen a large white orb type object hovering in the sky and then sped off at speeds that was insanely fast without a sound. At this point, nothing surprises me. So if you haven't already heard me recommend this, I'll recommend it again. Go seek out CE5 protocols. This is one of the ways that we can accomplish that. It doesn't work if you're fearful or if you're angry, or, and also the other thing is, I recommend that everybody drop everything they think they know about extraterrestrials. All the stuff you've heard from, the abduction nonsense to, all of this reptilian, hybrid garbage. It's all nonsense. Drop all of that crap. I would like for you to think of them in the same way you would think of elves. They're not the gods. They're not Odin. They're not Thor. They're not the giants. They still have they still are part of our manifested universe, but they're at a level that seemingly is on the verge of entering into infinity. I'd like for you to think of them that way. And anyway, go Google CE5 protocols. And I'm going to start doing that on a regular basis myself. Guy Home, honest feeling. I am pumped up with this live. Today I saw dwarves 2 times in the street, and I thought, wow, this can be a sign. If I see a third one, then I saw your video with the dwarves. Aha. Okay, I don't know what that means. What did they look like? How do you know they were dwarves? Specifically, what did you see? For me, dwarves, and I'm open for a change on that, but dwarves are, well, in the Norse mythology, there actually wasn't a difference between humans and dwarves. When you looked at them, you couldn't tell the difference. You could have a dwarf and a human standing right next to each other, and you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. So a dwarf is also strongly associated with dreams. In the Old English, there's an Old English spiritual, magical spell. It was written in a book. It was called Against a Dwarf. And it was about helping somebody who was being attacked in their sleep by a being that was giving them a disease. So dwarves are strongly associated with the unconscious and the subconscious human mind, which, by the way, is the filter through which we create our universe. Dwarves are beings that created all of the magical tools that the gods use. The 4 directions are dwarves. So, Guy Home, when you say you saw 2 dwarves, what does that mean? Or are you saying you just saw the word dwarves? I don't know. I don't know what you're saying. Let's see. Bryce Gertson question. I've been practicing the Maoshan. When you say the Maoshan, do you mean the 5 element forms, or do you mean the meditations and the mudras that I teach in the Warrior 90 Day? You say, I've been practicing the Maoshan and noticed my unconscious issues coming to the surface. Yep. My girlfriend has also been experiencing unusually intense emotions. Does your energy flow from the practice affect others? Yes. If you have a girlfriend, especially if you guys have physical contact, then your unconsciouses are seeking to entwine. By the way, this is what marriage is. Anybody who says that marriage is just a piece of paper does not understand how energy works. You can be living with somebody and not be married, and you will not completely merge on an unconscious level. But the moment that you do a ritual and make a legal binding contract and you marry somebody, whether you mean to do it or not, on an unconscious level, you will begin to merge. So even if your girlfriend, you're close that way, yes, you guys are vibrating on an unconscious level. So, yeah, she's going to be affected by that. So it's good to be conscious of that, to have your partner know that this is what you're doing. My marriage fell apart, as you know. If you've been following my channel, way back in 2012. And one of the things that destroyed it was that I was doing the Maoshan practices. She didn't like it. She didn't like it because she would have had to rise up to the next level to stay with me. And so we ended up getting a divorce. Let's see. Guy Home question. Are dwarves helping us to manifest our dreams into reality? So let me be clear on what I say dwarves are. So Guy Home, first let me ask you, have you read my books? Have you watched the videos on this channel of me reading my books? Because I talk about what dwarves are. So don't think of dwarves as something outside of you. Dwarves aren't outside of you. Dwarves are beings that are associated with your subconscious and your unconscious. So they don't help us. They are the mechanism through which you create your reality. So don't see them as outside of you. So again, it makes me want to chastise you for not reading my books, because that question, you wouldn't have asked that question if you had read my books. But in terms of you can use this in magical practice. You go into your lower self. We have three selves: our upper self, our middle self, and our lower self in our navel. You can go into your lower self and you can take an intent and you can go tell your dwarves to go manifest it. And this is something that magicians do. This is the difference between a magician and a spiritual practitioner. A magician wants to use that power to create, and that's the path they have to go on to reach their evolution. What is the relation between the dwarves and the Nagas? Well, based on some recent information that was shared with me, the dwarves, as I said, are associated with your unconscious. And the Nagas are not necessarily directly associated with your unconscious. They vibrate on that level. They are bringers of knowledge. They're bringers of forbidden knowledge. I say that in quotes. But there's a good chance they may have their own realm, their own extra dimensional world that they live in. But their job is to help us to evolve. And they're mirrors. So they're tricksters in this. What a trickster does is a trickster holds up the mirror to you. And if you are attached to your own fear or your selfishness, you will be tempted to go down a path that doesn't ultimately serve your evolution. But from the Naga's perspective, you're just being your authentic self. I've just revealed to you how selfish and narcissistic you are. Now go be that. If you are somebody who seeks to become conscious, more and more conscious of your unconscious issues, and dropping fear, dropping anger, dropping greed, then when the Nagas come up and give you the mirror, you will then see the secrets of the universe. So that's why they're bringers of forbidden knowledge. And that's why they're dangerous, because if you're not clear, if you're full of false humility or false spirituality, then you will be deceived or tempted out of your own power. So they don't have that kind of direct connection, I think, like what you're asking. Again, you guys, it makes me want to ask you, have you read my books? Guy Home, I mean very small humans the size of a kid. So you mean human beings that have dwarfism. So that's Guy Home again. Now I know you haven't read my books. As I said, in the mythology, dwarves and humans look identical. You can't tell the difference by looking at them. A human, a mon, is somebody who is operating from their higher spiritual mind. They're a fully spiritually evolved person, and they get to become mon, or human. A dwarf is somebody who operates from their lower self. They're unconscious, they're subconscious, they're afraid, they're crafty. The thing about dwarves is that they can be, when they see the elves for who they are, the dwarves worship the elves, your higher self. When yourselves are disjointed, then the dwarves hate the elves, just like in the Tolkien. The Tolkien mythology is coming from Old Norse understandings. It means your lower self, you become a selfish, destructive individual, and you run away from your higher self. So the idea of dwarves being little people was brought about by the Christians. So when the understanding that our ancestors had of different realities, elves, dwarves, all of that, people wouldn't let go of that. Even in Christian times, a lot of people believed in elves and dwarves. And so what the church did is they diminutized them. They turned them into tiny little beings with funny little hats and big shoes. And that's why you have Christmas elves, and they're cute little tiny things that run around. Dwarves and elves were not originally tiny little beings that ran around. They were seen much differently. They were powerful beings. So, I understand where you're coming from. You saw two small people that looked like dwarves, and we call them dwarves, but that's not what a dwarf is, traditionally speaking. So, I invite you to read my books, watch more of my videos that I talk about all that stuff. Tavadiyal Tripusundari Rati Devi. Honest feeling. I am feeling thankful for your awakening the immortals. Qigong, by the way, and that's free for anybody. You can go on my channel. Summoning the Immortals Qigong. Summoning the, I think that's how I call it. Immortals Qigong. It's right there. It's for free. It is a high-level Maoshan practice, which will give you that energy of the heart-mind. It's my gift to the world. Please go do that. So I'm happy to hear that somebody's doing that. I'm feeling thankful for your awakening the immortals because I am finally feeling some healing taking place in my body. I'm happy to hear that. That healing is yours. You are doing that. You're opening yourself up to your own healing. So congratulations for that. Thundra Gucharan questions. So with your new understanding, the one where I'm starting to think that elves might be extra-dimensional beings. So with your new understanding, would you say the realms within the Thunder Wheel are part of this dimension or multi-dimensional? Yes, I'm saying that the Northwest is the connection to the realm of the elves, whatever that means. You know, the most recent rune reading that I did, I still have it here. Let's see. Do I have that available to look at? Let's see. Is that it? No. No. That's not it. All right, I'll upload it again. So let's take a look at the rune reading I did a while back on, I was asking the question of the runes, what are the intention of extraterrestrials? What's their mindset towards us and towards humans? And so let me just upload that quickly. That must be it. Oh, that's far too big. Okay, so that's the 9-world rune layout. I asked the question. I want to know what the extraterrestrials' mindset is towards us. And if you look up in the northwest, up in the top left, that is the realm of the elves, the elf home. You see Uruj, which means power, strength, power. So that is where they get their power. Based on this reading, where the extraterrestrials get their power is from the realm of the ascended masters, the realm of the elves. So I didn't say it then because I was kind of toying with the idea. The way I said it in the video was that from the perspective of the elves, these are very powerful beings. So again, I'm not sold on any of this yet, but you know, now we're starting to live in a bigger universe. So to answer your question, So with your new understanding, would you say the realms within the thunder wheel are part of this dimension or multidimensional? Yes, the 9 worlds are part of this. It's not like 9 worlds in another 9 worlds. I mean, it could be. There's at least 9 dimensions. So, to answer your question, yes and no. How's that? My assumption was that they were all within this universe and dimension. No, I'm sorry that I gave that impression. No, the 9 worlds are 9 dimensions. There are 9 dimensions on top of ours. The center world, our world of Midgard, middle fortress. The fortress means that we don't have easy access to other dimensions. We wall ourselves off from other dimensions with our perception. So what I'm saying here is, since our mythology is quite old, comparatively speaking, we could now change the 9 worlds so that the middle yard is no longer the Middle Earth fortress. We just turn it into the home of humans. So there's 2 fortresses. There's the middle fortress, which is Earth, and then there is the fortress of the celestial gods, the Os yard, the yard of the Os, the fortress of the Os, the celestials. So the celestials need a fortress because they live in timeless perfection. They don't like living in space-time. That's why they're the gods. But the Vanir, on the other hand, the reason why the Vanir are constantly at war with the Aesir is because the Vanir, they live in Vanahome. They don't live in Vanguard, Vanyard. They live in Vanahome, the home of the gods of space-time. So they like being in space-time. The celestial gods, they don't like that because it screws with their timelessness, their timeless perfection. They see it as chaos. They see this world and world where we have space-time, they see it as chaos. They see it as tainted. So they wall themselves off from it by living in a fortress. We have done the same with our own perception. Our perception of 4D and things are only what we can see and touch, and our fear, anger, violence. This walls us off from the other dimensions. And that's why only, in times past and now, only the shamans, only the Vitki, the wizards, the staff carrier women, only very highly spiritually advanced people can see into the other realms. But we are going into a phase where we are going to either, like I said, we're going to get snuffed out because the universe is going to say, okay, these guys, they're not willing to move forward. We're just going to let the human race, die off. Or we are going to evolve to the next level where that fortress gets taken away, that fortress of perception. What else? There, okay, I think I answered your question. Thundra, question. Whoop, you just retracted your question. I didn't get to see it. So, there's another one. Question, did you ever experience seeing physical portals when engaging with the Yoruba drumming ceremonies? That's not, I have not had that experience where I see things. That's not hasn't been my specialty. I suspect that was a decision that I made when I was younger. I think I remember making a decision when I was a little kid that I didn't want to see things. I remember seeing things. I remember being 5 years old and I remember seeing what we would call a reptilian. I saw him come out of the ground, like he was on an elevator, and he just came up to the human floor, like he was coming from underneath. He just appeared, Um, I've had other kinds of experiences, out of body experiences, things like that. But I think I made the decision not to see things with my eyes. However, when uh, I used to teach African drumming, the Yoruba drumming. I used to teach that, and I had a group of drummers. Maybe I'll do it again someday. But one of the reasons I stopped was because that when I would play, like if you ever see the pictures of me or the videos of me when I'm playing, I've got some on my channel. You can see me kind of doing this where I'm going off like that, and it's because it puts me in a trance, and my crown chakra opens up, and it's really blissful and wonderful when I'm playing. But when I stop playing, I'm like not able to function. And when I was married, I used to drum a lot. And when people would come up to talk to me, like people would ask me how much my classes were. I couldn't even think in terms of money, and I would have to look at her and I would say, how much do I charge again? Because I didn't know from numbers. $1, $100. And every time that I performed, I had to take at least one day off and just lie down for the rest, just to get myself back in my body. So I go out of this realm, but it's not something because I see it. That's not my gift, or I've chosen not to go that way. So have I seen physical portals? I'm not going to say that I haven't, but the reason why is because I create portals myself. If I'm drumming, I'm creating a portal. If I'm doing the Maoshan spirit fighting, I am, like here, I'm creating portals. So I'm not looking to see them, I create them. And then I use them as vehicles for my meditations or for my own entertainment. So this is kind of the difference. I mean, this is the spirit fighter. The spirit fighter doesn't wait for a portal to appear. He or she creates one. So that's a different kind of a mindset. Again, very proactive. You know how I am. I'm very proactive about everything. So I hope that answered your question. But when we did the Yoruba drumming, when we just did the songs, we didn't have to do the ceremonies. When you play the correct rhythms and the interlocking rhythms, everybody has their own rhythm and they interlock. When those happen and you do them correctly, portals open. And it used to be really fun for me when I had newer students. And, if everybody was playing their part correctly, the newer students, you'd see them start doing this, look around, stuff like that. They'd get really weird looks on their faces. And the rest of us would smile because we knew what was going on. And then the song would end and they'd say, did you hear like dinosaurs roaring? And the other person would go, no, it was bells. And then another person would say, no, it was children laughing. You'd hear different, and sometimes I'd be doing it, and I swear I'd hear the door open and close, and I'd look, and the door wouldn't move. But I'd hear the door open and slam shut. And then you could feel people walking up and down the halls. You could hear sometimes people clapping, maybe singing. The Orishas, the ancestors, were coming, and so I didn't have to see portals; they were just opened. This is normal stuff for traditional shamanic stuff. So I hope that answers your question. Bryce Gertson question: there is a pressure that builds in my third eye area from practicing the wood element, especially. Do you have an explanation of what is happening energetically? Yes. The third eye, people get all bent out of shape over the third eye and they get all obsessed over it. And, I don't think people should. It's a nexus point. There's a bunch of nerves, for one thing, a bunch of nerves that come together here. And there are different energy meridians that come together there. So it's, what happens is if you're just opening up your meridians, you'll feel pressure. So you might feel pressure right here. But it doesn't mean anything. It's like, the hose is kinked. And so if you keep doing the practice, the hose will unkink and the water will go through. I mean, I still, sometimes when I just begin to go into a posture, I can feel my third eye activate. But again, I don't take it seriously. You know me, I don't take any of this stuff as meaning anything. It's just one of those physical things that happens. So it's a good sign. It means you're doing something right, but it's not something you need to focus on. What else? Nothing else? Is that it? Okay, we all done? No more questions? All right, that's it for me then too. We're coming towards the end of the month here. So May 25th. So if you decide to sign up for the starting today, so you not in a week from now, but between now and the end of May, if you sign up for the Warrior 90-Day Challenge, I will, and I see that you've signed up, I will refund you for this month, because they charge you whenever you sign up, and then they charge you again at the first of the month. So if you sign up at the last week, you know, anybody who does that, I refund you for that month, because then you're going to get charged again, you know, soon. So don't hold off. If you want to sign up, you can go ahead and sign up, and I'll see it, and I will refund you for that last week. But if you sign up more than a week before the end of the month, then no, I won't refund you. What else? Something else come up here? Bryce Gertson. No, nothing else. All right, that's it. Thank you so much, guys. It was great. Let's keep this up. Go Google CE5 protocols. When we start doing the Maoshan, watch what's going to happen. We're going to do the Maoshan and we do the CE5 protocols. I think I'd like to do that. I don't know what would happen, but we'll have to do some live streams where we're doing the CE5 protocol meditations together. And we'll see what that creates. But let me be clear on what the point of all that is. The point of the CE5 protocols is not for your entertainment. So trying to get extra dimensional beings to manifest for your entertainment. They're not clowns. They're not here to do a song and dance for us. They are here to, number one, give us the ability to understand that the programming that we have been given, that we project, once you accept the reality that there are other civilizations, other extraterrestrial and extra dimensional civilizations and beings, that is the beginning of an awakening process, where when we become clear of that, we disconnect from the spell, the delusion, the lie, the hypnotic suggestion of the deep state. When you become aware, oh my God, there are other dimensional beings. There are beings from other planets. There are dwarves and elves and celestial masters, and it stops becoming theoretical and it becomes physical and real. Then we wake up out of that dream. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, for our own spiritual empowerment, we are seeking to connect to this multi-dimensional universe that our ancestors understood. So that's what they're here to help do. They're not, like I said, they're not clowns for our entertainment. So if you're going to do it for the right reasons. Do it and be serious about it. Don't play around with it, because it won't work otherwise. Let's see. You don't have to be perfect about it. Just, do it for the right reasons. Okay, is that it? I think that's it. Vincent is thanking me. You're welcome, Vincent. Congratulations on all of your success and your happiness. Keep up the good work. All right, that's all. We're done. I'll see you guys next time. Take care. Take back your soul. This is another transmission from Mahadeva here at thunderwizard.com headquarters, where you find the world's only unified spiritual energy system at thunderwizard.com. Get ready, because here I come.